Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. In this video, I think I would like to talk about Kuhemp, come out of her, my people, the Ozarks as a place of refuge, some events that have happened in my recent past to support these concepts, and yeah, just basic catch back up with the YouTube Vikings. But first, could it be? Could it possibly be? Cue the intro! Ba-da! The Varwolf. Something about peasants in the 30 Years' War. I can't see it. There's the author. John Mosby, Mountain Gorilla blog, I think at WordPress, just recommended this book about a week or so ago, maybe longer. I ordered it from Amazon. It was only a few bucks. I don't remember what it costs. Not a whole lot. It's awesome. You would like it. If you like this channel, I think you'd like this book. It sounds kind of boring. A peasant chronicle for the 30 Years' War. That sounds kind of boring to me. It's historical fiction. It's set around like a Hamlet in Germany back during the 30 Years' War. And the forces that come to play and just the people and living in a time of chaos. SHTF, TEOTWAWKI, WROL. Written in 1910, really well written. I told my wife I didn't know they wrote that well back in 1910. I got a fly on my leg. So there you go. Recommend. I read this, I got it and read it in less than a day. Because it was that good. I just didn't want to put it down once I started reading it. I was really surprised at how good it was. So if you're into that, there you go. All right, where to start? This is the third time shooting this video. The first time I was 17 minutes into it, and my guineas. Do you know what guinea fowl are? They're from Africa. Guinea hens, guinea whatever they call the males. They make a racket. They're really good security. When they see something they're not used to, they go off. The problem is sometimes they have false alarms, and they were right behind those bushes just going. One of them going off. And I yelled at it, and the other two joined in, and they wouldn't stop. And I asked my wife to go shoo them away. She tried. They didn't. I had to stop the video. Then I came back, shooting on a different phone, and got about 3 minutes into it, and the phone shut off because the memory was full, because I have a Patreon video on there that I shot earlier. For you, the things I do for you. Okay. The Father, God, is calling his people to the Ozarks. I've said it before. I'm not the only one who says it. I have nothing to win or gain, really, by telling you that. I care about you. It's why I'm telling you. I meet people every week who have come from other places and come to the Ozarks. And when I first started saying this, I had a lot of people from the Ozarks in comments, maybe not a lot, but you know, say, hey, don't tell people to come here. We don't want them Californians coming here. Right? But here's the deal. This is the third fastest growing region of the country. One narrow strip. If you're looking at the Ozarks like this, there's a narrow strip. Rogers, Bentonville, Springdale, Fayetteville corridor. It's the third fastest growing region of the country. There's a lot of people coming here. When a house goes up for sale, when a piece of land goes up for sale, someone is gonna buy it. All the better if it's one of y'all who's into preparedness, because as a general rule, preppers will not be part of the problem in what's coming. They'll be able to take care of themselves. They will not have to prey upon others. It's the plan, right? I meet people all the time. I always ask them where they're from. They're never from around here. And then we get around to, why are you here? Why did you move here? These are people I don't know, 10 minutes ago. They all tell me the same thing in various forms. God told me to come here. The Holy Spirit put an unction on me to come here. I don't know. Something just told me I needed to come here. Recently, I was at a meeting of a few different mags mutual assistance groups in the area, representatives from a few different mags and some individuals, eaches. And I got around and I was talking to them, and it was good, right? It was really good. And I talked about it in more detail on the Patreon account. I'm not going to rehash the meeting here. But I met people from all over, and some came from far away to come to this meeting, like 6 hours, 9 hours, one guy from Texas and his wife. I met a young man who, when I say young, he's under 30, as old as my kids. I can call him a young man. Moved from Arizona out here to the Ozarks, bought himself a plot of land on a owner-financed contract. And I said, what are you living in? And he's living in a Quonset hut that's on the property, like a 20 by 40 or something, Quonset hut, while he's waiting for his land and house in Arizona to sell so that he has cash, and then he'll build it into the place. And he's already gardening and setting up a water system and doing all that stuff. And I don't know, he bought like 40 acres or something, or he's buying it. And we were talking about having other people come live on the land with him and help him out, and da-da-da. And again, I went into more detail in that on the Patreon video. But so he moved here, and then I was watching this chair is like, you sit back like this, it's like a lounge chair, man. I was talking to brother Chris from the YouTube channel Following Yeshua, and he did a live stream last night after my wife's live stream. Oh, shameless plug. What is it? Sister Kate Shofar Mountain. And so we were on watching his live stream, my wife and I. And, you know, he comes from an entirely different background than I do. He's a totally different person in the past than I am. Just totally different backgrounds. You can go watch his channel and figure it out. And yet we are so much alike because we've come out of her, my people. We have come away from the shiny things of Babylon, and you know, all the seductive pleasures that are there, and come to this life of hardship, being another word I coined, neo-pioneer. I think I did. I don't know anyone who used it before me. We came out here into the wilderness to be neo-pioneers, to create a different, better lifestyle that, has the added benefit, side effect of, if this world falls apart, come on, we're going to be squared away. We were talking yesterday, we were laughing how we're so different and so much alike. One of the sisters they were relating a story about it was raining, and they have a gutter that's not quite right, so it leaks a lot, the one gutter on their house. And she went out and took a shower under the gutter in the rainwater coming down. And we laughed and said, we do that too. We do that too. Because it's free water coming out of the sky, because we don't have running water. We're off the grid. And I got to thinking about that. You know, if you told the average suburban housewife, you got to go take a shower in the cold rain underneath the gutter, she'd probably sue you for divorce or something, or sue her husband for divorce. Or, you know, if you told kids go take a shower in that, you know, Child Protective Services would come get your kids. It's ridiculous. You go camping and stand under waterfalls, and that's considered cool, right? Come on. But when this whole thing goes pop and the house of cards falls down, we're still going to have showers that we're comfortable with. I hate reshooting videos 3 times. They're never as crisp, but we're getting there. So why is the Ozarks a place of refuge? I think I know the answer to that. A lot of reasons. One thing, whenever I bring up the Ozarks as a place of refuge, people on YouTube, most of y'all are great, but you know on YouTube there's like that 5% of just trolls, right? Just that just have to run their yaps and say stupid things. And then there's also a lot of ignorance where people just have no shame and they just put their ignorance out there, and it's like, wow, the whole world sees you're stupid. That's why I like Patreon. You should come check it out. But people will say, oh, the Ozarks, that whole place is falling apart when New Madrid lets go, New Madrid fault zone. It takes less than 5 minutes on Google. Google a New Madrid seismic zone images. This picture like Casper, a red Casper shows up. That's where the earthquake's going to affect things. Then Google Ozark region images. You'll finally get there on a map, and it shows you where the Ozarks are. And New Madrid, as you're looking at it, is like way over here. Like that. It doesn't affect most of the Ozarks, so it's not a thing. The Ozarks has abundant water. We have groundwater. Water comes out of the sky. Water flows through the creeks and stuff. Water's not going to be a problem. It has a very long growing season, which is going to be important. You know, people start planting here in February, and you can grow up through November. And if you build a little greenhouse, even a homemade greenhouse, that'll extend you all through the winter. And so there's that. Land is relatively cheap. It's gone up a lot since I moved here for real back in 2012. But there's still good deals. I was at this event with these different mags, and we were talking about the price of land and how it's really gone up. And yet people were calling up on their phones in the Ozarks, places where land was, you know, $2,000 or less an acre when you bought, you know, 100 acres of it or so. That's still a lot of money, but in the scheme of things, it's not a lot of money. My wife and I put an offer on a house that was initially accepted in a little hamlet near here, a house on about a half-acre lot, built in 1924, 29, somewhere back there, that was structurally sound, had some problems with it, but structurally sound. We put an offer in of $20,000, and it delighted the seller. Now, something else happened, and that fell through. But, you know, compared to California or Northern Virginia or something like that, come on, man, that's nothing. That's like chump change. Most people drive cars that cost more than that. So you can do it. I think a big problem that, I'm still talking about the goodness of the Ozarks. There's a lot of game. There's, you know, deer and turkey and bear and wild pigs in the southern part of the Ozarks. Squirrels and rabbits and, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's an agricultural based area, but in a good way. You know, we came here from Kansas, which is agriculturally based, with huge mega farms, and that grow all one thing, corn or soy, you know, something like that. Around here, people have, for the most part, small holdings, and by small, you know, 100 acres or less. And they raise some cattle and some chickens and a vegetable garden and stuff like that. And you see that all over the place. Yes, there are chicken houses here, and that is industrial farming. But they're not they are everywhere, but they're not everywhere. I don't know how else to describe that. There's a lot of people who live up in these hills that have the ability to provide their own food security. My neighbor, a guy who borders on my land, is poor. He lives in a single wide trailer that's not in great shape, and he's on, you know, I don't know, 20, 30 acres. And he's constantly, you know, scrounging stuff to put things together to make things work. And yet he has about 20 head of cattle. Think about that. 20 cows. And he has breeding stock. They make new babies every year. He's potentially a very wealthy man, especially in a grid down situation. And he has me for a neighbor, so he doesn't have to worry about anybody sneaking onto his place and stealing cows from this side. And as a matter of fact, everybody around him is just like him. They're small holdings with, you know, a few cattle, chickens, gardens. Everybody's squared away. It's not a problem. Everybody around here, everybody's a big word, right? I paint with a broad brush. Is armed. Not armed like the militia with, you know, AR-15s and AKs, although those exist. One of my neighbors has a fully automatic AK because I hear him shoot it every now and then. But, you know, they're good old boys, right? And gals. You know, they got deer rifles and shotguns and handguns that they plink with. There's not enough here to worth come getting and worth the pain that it would take. It's not like you could go to, you know, a big cattle facility in western Kansas and go get mega semi-loads full of cattle. It's not like a again, Kansas, Nebraska, where you go to where they bring all the crop in, and you could just get it all and put it on trains. Um, it, there's nothing like that here. It's all smaller, and all the chickens will be dead in 48 hours after an event, because if the air is not right, and they'll die. That'll be bad. So no one's coming here for them. Not too cold in the winter, but there is a winter, so that keeps the bugs down a little bit, unlike Florida, which is just going to go under the ocean and disappear anyway. Lots of people heat with firewood that you just get off your land. In many parts of the Ozarks, there are no building codes, and that's a good thing. If you don't like what your neighbor's doing, don't move there, or get a big enough piece of property you don't have to see them. But there's nobody in your business when you want to do things. The people here are mountain people. Those of you who live in the Redoubt and Appalachia know what I mean. You move into this area, you're coming from somewhere else, right? Don't expect the neighborhood homeowners association, non-existent, to show up with a plate of brownies. Don't expect your neighbor to come over and say, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. We're having a barbecue on Saturday. Why don't you come? Or much less a wine and cheese party. That ain't going to happen. The people who live here are kind of insular. They're clannish, meaning, they're kinship groups. Families big, extended families big. They watch and wait and see how you do. They will eventually say something to you in an offhanded way to try and give you advice. And then they watch to see what you do with that advice. Do you take it, or do you say, well, that's not how we did it in California? I was talking to a former deputy sheriff the other day, and he was talking about how he hates the Californians who moved to the Ozarks. And in one case, he had a Californian call him up. He responded to their house. They were complaining about their neighbors over something. He told me about 5 different stories. I don't remember which one it was. And he explained it to him and basically said he wasn't going to do anything. And this woman said, well, that's not how we do things in California. And he'd had it. He grew up here. And he goes, well, lady, I suggest you get your ass back to California. And about 20 minutes later, cell phone rings. It's the sheriff. What are you doing? This woman was a big contributor to the sheriff's campaign, and that's how things start. But the Californians, per se, and they're a problem, right? These city people who want to get away from it all and then bring all their city ways with them, they are a problem. But there's not that many of them here because it's too rough. And the ones that come hover around the corridor, right in there so they can go get their lattes or whatever. Move out away from that in whatever direction you want a little bit, and you'll be good. I'm not going to go over the news. I do that on Patreon, do the World Sit Rep. But come on, you see what's going on, right? I mean, you see what's going on in like Portland and Seattle. And I had people ask me, you should do a Civil War II video. Not gonna. It's not coming here. It's not coming here. I think when the event happens, there's a lot of people thinking that they'll get out at the last minute. They can partake of all the pleasures of Babylon now, and at the last minute they'll leave, and I think they're all going to get stuck there and do terribly. And I don't want that to happen to you. There's too many people that are chasing the brass ring, the perceived brass ring. They want all the baubles. It's not real. It's not real stuff. Brother Chris was talking on Following Yeshua last night about how, probably whatever job you had back out there before you came here paid X amount for X work. Number one, you may not be able to get that job here. You may, but you may not. And number two, you're probably not going to get paid as much here for that job. But it doesn't matter because the cost of living is less. And something else I was talking on Patreon, because I realized the way I've kind of slanted this video to this point is run away, bad things are coming, the sky is going to fall, you need to come out of her, my people, right? That's a fear-based motivation. But the reality is this. I mean, whatever gets you out of the cities will help. if it will help if something bad actually happens. TEOTWAWKI, WROL, SHTF. But nothing could happen. We could muddle along for another 1,000 years, right? I mean, we could. I don't think we're going to, clearly, but we could. And if the only reason you left that and came here was fear, you're going to be an unhappy camper, literally and figuratively. Instead of running from something to be happy, you have to be moving towards something. And that something is a simpler life. My biggest problem today was I was shooting a video for y'all and my guinea hens were pitching a fit right behind those bushes. And I couldn't hear. Listen to what I listened to. Last night, Sister Kate, Shofar Mountain, was doing her live chat on our front porch. And the loudest thing you could hear was the frogs. It's a nice lifestyle. Your priorities are what you make them. I coined the term, I think, and it's the third time shooting this video. I may have already said it in this video. Neo-pioneer. I never heard anyone use it before I started using it. And I got that idea when we first came out here. My wife and I were talking, what the heck are we doing? I mean, we did have it all, right? I had a great job and a great house and da-da-da-da-da. Could buy anything I wanted. And we're going to go live in a $300 trailer on land that has nothing but trees and rocks on it. What are we doing, man? The term I coined, neo-pioneer, what gave me hope was this. My wife had been doing a study on the pilgrims, an in-depth study. And so she would relate things to me, like how many people started the journey, how many were still alive a year later, yada, 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 what they brought with them. And I thought, man, I've got chainsaws and a truck. And if I need it, God forbid, I can get on 911, what's your emergency? Have a helicopter land right out there for an injured person. We got it so much over those early pioneers. We can do anything. If they could do it, we can do it. You can do it. And you can do it too. Again, I don't remember which video it was, but I have a friend in the area. They're living off grid. And because it's easier when you're, this is my point. It's easier when you don't have kids, I think. If you're a young couple or a single without kids, like when my wife and I, before we had kids, I said, you know, if the world goes to crap, we'll just go live in our truck. If I lose my job for whatever weird reason, we can live in the truck and both work at McDonald's. It's not a thing, right? But once you have children, the math changes. And then once you're in where my wife and I are now, our kids are raised and out. Again, you can do kind of what you want. You know, the only person you're affecting is you and your wife. If you two are good with it, you're good. And then people say, well, with children, things are different. And they are. I'm not, you know, I didn't do this with children. But I know lots of people with children that are doing it. And my example is I have a friend in the area. They live off grid. They have kids. And two of their kids, girls, are amazing. They're pretty. They're wicked smart. Like only homeschooled kids can be wicked smart. I mean, they're just brilliant. They carry themselves as little adults in many ways. They look right at you when they talk to you. And the one girl is like 9. She's like a little wild child, man. I mean, she can just run off into those woods out there, gather twigs, and start a fire. I mean, it's not a thing, right? She can fish and shoot, and their parents have the kids enrolled in different classes to develop different skill sets with them. The parents are smart. They have total control of their children, so their children are going to raise up to be quality adults, right? And this is what they know. You don't miss what you haven't known. So in that way with children, it's easy. You're giving them a wholesome lifestyle. They're not watching ridiculous cartoons with satanic crap just all through it. all through the cartoons that it's just subliminally getting the kids. They're not being programmed to be good little consumers with a commercial for some toy that's made in China and gonna break 3 weeks after you buy it, so you have to go buy something else. Every 20 minutes, commercials coming on and bombarding their brain. They don't have weird kids that they're interacting with because the parents pick who they hang out with. Dun, 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 dun. It's a good lifestyle to raise a kid, a child. So what are you gonna do? I think you should move out to the countryside and live a more agriculturally based lifestyle because it's a better way of life. That's one. Number two, those are the people who are going to make it. We are the people who are going to make it in what's coming. And of all the areas that I know about, I know the Father is calling his people, people of faith, to the Ozarks. And like I said, I think he's calling some to the Redoubt too. And then I always get the comments, well, I'm called to stay right here in Western Connecticut. Okay, somebody's calling you there. Could be the Father, could be somebody else. But large numbers of people, and that's going to be important too in the rebuilding. You want to be around people who think generally along the lines that you do. Here's another thing, and I started thinking about it because of this book, and I'm reading another book that I don't like as much, but it's okay, Dies the Fire. The things we think are important right now, first world problems, right? Things people are willing to go out on the street and throw urine at other people over. In what world is that okay? Why isn't somebody sticking an arrow in that person's chest? I'm going back to the books. I'm not talking about the mean streets of Portland. Whatever. There goes this video. But the people who get all upset about those things don't matter. Not in the big. They don't. People have the luxury to get all upset about those things right now. Things that matter are breathing, warmth, coolness if you live in Arizona, food, calories. We talked on Patreon recently about the 1,000,000-calorie rule. Yeah, that's important. Calories are important. And something else we talked about there, but I feel that led to explain it to you. A lot of people who watch here, you're preppers, right? Or you're dabbling with it, or it's a hobby, or you're into it while you're eating Doritos and drinking a Diet Coke. And some of you have done things like stored food. Stored food is just your backstop. What are you going to do when that stored food runs out? It's not like when your stored food runs out, suddenly and amazingly Walmart's going to open back up, or Kroger's or whatever, and you can go grocery shopping again. Do you think by the time you get to the end of your however much stored food you have, everything's going to be okay? Not in a TEOTWAWKI situation. It's going to be getting progressively worse. You're going to have some means to produce your own calories for everybody in your circle. So we talked about that over there too. I hope this reaches somebody. Somebody out there is on the fence. You need to come out and away from that. You need to get away from that nonsense. Get out away from the people. I did a video here on YouTube years ago where I talked about the two greatest threats during TEOTWAWKI. World Without Rule of Law, SHTF. And the two greatest threats are people behaving badly and starvation. Those are the two biggest threats. You can solve the first one to a large degree by getting away from the masses of people. It requires a different lifestyle. It requires a lifestyle change. For those of you who conceal carry, you realize that if one chooses to conceal carry, one has to change, in most cases, the way one dresses, the way one chooses to present oneself to the world. You have to wear different style clothing if you want to conceal carry. Doesn't mean you have to wear your tactical ninja gear, but you got to dress differently. You got to change your lifestyle. You conceal carry to protect yourself, right? So you change your lifestyle. This is just orders of magnitude bigger. For what's coming, you're going to have to change your lifestyle. And you're going to have to do it sooner rather than later. Best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. Second best time's right now. You need to get busy. It takes time to develop relationships. It takes time to figure out the resources of your area. It takes time, it takes time, it takes time. I don't know how much you have. Get busy. I hope I see you out there.